any specific advice or guidance to the role of playing Han Solo?
Yeah. He said, if anyone asks, tell them I told you everything you need to know and that you're not allowed to say a word.
He might want to say one or two more things.
Oh my God.
Get out of my chair. Get out of my life.
Hi. How are you? Wow. Oh my God. That is awesome. Thanks for coming by.
Just in the neighborhood.
I'd love to hear some of your feedback to watching this young man.
I just thought it was spectacular, and I thought he was so smart about what he did and how he did it. I just couldn't be happier.
Wow.
Come on, let that sink in for a second. What does that feel like to hear that?
It's pretty unbelievable.
Seems Alden is still recovering.
Whoa! Okay, so I just now saw Kathleen Kennedy in the background staring at Harrison Ford the whole time, making sure he says what he's supposed to. And I've seen this clip like 10 times. This is the first time I noticed her. That's way creepy. And Harrison Ford is not stopping by strictly because he's in the neighborhood. Like, he's getting paid for sure. This is Harrison Ford. Everyone wants to see him. He's getting some money in his pocket for this. And look at Ron Howard. What is with this guy? Watch this. He paces back and forth 4 different times around Harrison Ford, trying to insert himself into the conversation and be a part of it. And it's just weird, dude. Like, you're not a part of it. This is his spotlight. Let him go. And even when Aaron Reich puts his hand on Harrison Ford's back and is like patting him on the back, Ron Howard does the same thing. No one's talking to you, dude. Just all the respect for you, but give him some space, man. And what is this guy? Did he just bow to Ron Howard? Is that a thing? Why did that happen? Okay, so look at this. Disney's literally telling Harrison Ford what to say, right? They're like, say he's a good guy, say he's great. And they're paying him all this money to say this. Ron Howard's just sitting there like nodding his head like, yeah, say what we want you to say. Tell the fans it's gonna be a great movie. And the interviewer is literally Disney telling us, the fans, oh, let that sink in. Harrison Ford just said he's a great actor. Let that sink in, guys. It's gonna be a great movie. And at the end of the interview, they straight up cut Harrison Ford off. And Harrison Ford is the one guy that everyone wants to hear more of. He doesn't say enough, frankly, and Disney loves him, the fans love him, everyone wants to hear him say anything he has to say, and they cut him off for no reason. He had to have said something that was too on the line, or a joke like, it'll never be as good as my Solo. And that was just too much for Disney. They need everything said about this movie to be in a good light, and he just crossed that line, so they're like, cut it. And this whole clip just had a lot of weird behaviors. It's weird, you know, like that's Disney. This is just one of the examples that support my theory that Disney is deliberately trying to manipulate their audience, which in this case is us. And they are most literally trying to prime us to like their movies before we even see them. Now, they do this in many ways, and one of them, like what we see here, is they have a well-respected actor basically give his seal of approval or blessing on the movie, which in turn should validate it to us, the fans, because of how much we already look up to these amazing actors. And not gonna lie, it works on a lot of people. This puts them in the mindset that it's already going to be a great movie and sets up a higher chance of them liking it and telling all their friends about it. Now, this very well could be just Disney pushing some money their way under the table or something, just to kind of drop some kind words about the film. I mean, worst case scenario, they're being blackmailed while their entire family is being held hostage by Mickey's Playhouse.
You want to come inside my clubhouse?
But no, on the real, it could even just be that during all the time Harrison Ford helped out on the set of Solo, they deliberately surrounded him with a bunch of yes men. I know, exactly that. People surrounding you just constantly telling you how good something is or how great you are. A good example is on the set of The Last Jedi, or while working on the script. Rian Johnson must have been surrounded by so many yes men to think that pile of crap he gave us as The Last Jedi had any of the qualities to even come close to standing next to any of the Star Wars films. It was objectively bad on so many levels, and I go into great detail in this video here if you want to check it out. Let me know what you have to think about it. But in this case, they could have just surrounded Ford with a bunch of little minions, constantly telling him how good Solo is and how great of an actor Alden Ehrenreich is, to the point where Ford started to believe it himself. This is literally a form of brainwashing, and as far-fetched as it is, I wouldn't put it past Disney. If you're new here, subscribe, and share this video with any of your friends who will find this interesting. We're going to be in the comments, so don't forget to head down and see what others are saying, and let us know what you have to think about this. And for everyone who doesn't see what I'm talking about, just give me like 2 minutes, I'll explain. Disney has a history of making sure everyone speaks good about their film, and recently, more often than not, it just seems out of place or is so literally in your face that you don't realize it. The first time I saw the trailer for Solo, I was watching it from the standpoint that Aaron Reich wasn't the right actor for the role. I go into this problem alone in much more detail in this video. You should definitely go check it out after this. But the first thing we hear going into this trailer is Emilia Clarke telling Aaron Reich as Solo that he flat out looks great.
You look good. A little rough around the edges, but good.
As in Disney telling the fans, don't worry, he looks great. This immediately set off a bunch of red flags and was just too out of the ordinary for me. Then we jumped to the Jimmy Fallon show.
This is a coveted role. Han Solo is a big deal. I saw you made a very fine Han Solo, I will say.
Thank you.
Another, oh, you look so good. This is literally what we were just talking about, and they're going to all this trouble simply to avoid another situation like Mark Hamill on the red carpet for The Last Jedi.
It's only a movie. And if you think you're going to go into the movie and recapture your childhood, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Actually, that whole situation got a bit out of hand, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, I want to focus on the issue at hand regarding Harrison Ford in this Solo movie. So, as most of you probably know, Harrison Ford has been pretty done with the Star Wars franchise for a while now. He gladly came back for The Force Awakens only for Han Solo to be finally killed off. Oops, spoilers. But he's been wanting this since the original trilogy. And coming into the new Solo movie, all we ever heard of him is how much he didn't want to be a part of it and just wasn't too excited for it in general.
Are you looking forward to watching a Han Solo movie as a fan?
Not really.
So it's just really weird that now we're hearing from him how amazing this actor is and how amazing this movie is going to be. And like I said earlier, there's just way too much stuff out of place in this clip. I honestly think they might have brainwashed him using Yes Men. But we're going to take a step back for a minute and look at a very similar case to Ehrenreich replacing Ford as Solo and stop and look at the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, originally this character was played by Alec Guinness, who did a fantastic job and gave us the initial foundation for this character that we originally fell in love with. Casting a young version of Obi-Wan for the prequels was something that had to be handled with such care so the connection between the young and the old was prevalent and you could tell it was the same character. They ended up choosing Ewan McGregor for the role and he was honestly the best choice anyone could have picked. Everything from his looks to his mannerisms and even his movements resembled or at the very least reminded us of Guinness's portrayal we saw of the character in the original trilogy. But even to this day, when McGregor refers to the character, he refers to it as his version of Obi-Wan versus Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan.
I think that's the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, if there is one. The one that bridges my Obi-Wan Kenobi and Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He fully recognizes that he isn't the Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's not just one, but there are two different versions. And if he was to help at all play Obi-Wan in Episode 9 for some reason, by that time, his character would have turned into Alec Guinness. And he in no way wants to take that away and replace the older Obi-Wan Kenobi with himself. And this is what leads us to our problem with Ehrenreich. Everywhere we look, Disney is too focused on trying to convince us that he is Han Solo, telling us that he looks great. What are you guys talking about? Don't you know that's Han? And here on Fallon, look at this.
And you can bid on a Solo Cup signed by the actual Han Solo himself. This could go for $1 million.
The actual Solo himself, really? Like, there's no way this guy can replace Harrison. I know we went over it in the other video, but aside from his looks and voice, this guy doesn't have anywhere near the charisma that Han Solo would have. Notice I'm saying Han Solo and not Harrison Ford. If he's not going to resemble Han Solo with his looks or voice, he should at the very least be able to capture that cocky essence and swagger that Han Solo has. And in what we see of him in the trailer, he just fails to deliver. And Disney is scared that if enough people think for themselves and don't necessarily like this movie or his performance, it'll end up flopping like The Last Jedi. This was similar in a way though. It started out before any of the new trilogy was in production and Lucasfilm signed on Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford. And without anyone knowing about this, a few months later it was revealed that Disney bought Lucasfilm. Woohoo! The first movie of the new trilogy went by and it wasn't too bad. It wasn't as bad as the more recent films. It heavily resembled the original trilogy in some ways, but there was still a bunch of things that the fans didn't approve of. But little did we know of the coming pile of crap Mr. Rian Johnson would hand deliver himself as his work of genius to us. Wow, you've made 4 whole movies now. Great job, kid. The Last Jedi was written, and as soon as Mark Hamill read it, he approached Johnson and gave him his honest thoughts on it.
I said, I just fundamentally disagree with your concept of this character and how you use him.
And I said, Ryan, a Jedi doesn't give up.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
You know, a Jedi, if he does something wrong, he makes it right.
He straight up just didn't agree with it and felt like he had to be the voice that the fans couldn't be in that moment. But he was ignored. And the awful script, well, I don't even want to call it a story, was fleshed out into a movie which we could all tell was made not thinking about the fans who supported the franchise since the beginning, but it was made for the money.
Remember, kids, it's not important if it's of high quality.
only if it makes money. Because The Force Awakens made a lot of money, I can't be, it's not ergo, it's good. And oh my God, I just realized this is all on film.
And Mark Hamill continued to spread his true thoughts on it as he thought the fans deserved to hear them. But once he said just enough wrong things, Disney had a little meeting with him, a little sit down face to face, and what do you know? Next time we see him in front of a camera, he's apologizing for the whole world to see and saying how wrong it was of him to say that and talking about how great the movie was. It's honestly pretty sad at this point. This is another example of Disney putting their foot down and telling someone what to say so everyone listening will accept it as truth and go watch it again thinking about how good Mark Hamill said it was, when in reality, we're not stupid, Disney. We can see what you're doing. We just wish you'd put more genuine effort into these movies that you're already dumping your millions into. Why not make them actually good and give these movies to directors who actually care and can work on a predetermined path together? Mark Hamill made a great statement comparing the story of the new trilogy to the original trilogy here.
In the old days, there was an overall outline. This one's more like a relay race where the first guy runs the race and hands the torch off. And then the same with Ryan. Or JJ now is going to take Ryan's story and figure it all out.
He literally describes it as a relay race where one director only needs to get so far into the story without touching any of the other director's stories he's about to hand the torch off to. I just can't believe how Disney is handling this multi-billion-dollar franchise with such carelessness that it literally is beginning to destroy itself. Harrison Ford made a great point about it in this interview.
Telling stories is a service occupation. We continue to be allowed to tell stories on the basis of how happy people are with the stories that we tell.
He literally states that by telling good stories, they are allowed to tell more. And as Disney continues to tell stories that get worse and worse, the fans will continue to slowly put their foot down and will eventually end up boycotting them, as you can see here in this endless stream of comments from my other solo video. But eventually, if Disney keeps pumping out crap movies, more people will continue to not go to see these films until it makes just enough of a difference that Disney loses money on a few of these movies, until they decide it's not profitable to maintain this franchise anymore and will just give up on it. Now, I don't want this to happen. You don't want this to happen, but someone has to do something about it. Maybe comment if you have any ideas on how to make this situation better, and share this with any friends that could lend some insight. Maybe we could make our own crowd-funded fan films that rival Disney's or something. I don't know. But thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want me to make more videos about this type of stuff. I'm going to head down to the comments and see what you guys have to say. But for the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Peace.
It's good to be pushed out of your comfort zone. I don't like being pushed out of my comfort zone.